Last night at this time, we presented the first in a two-part series of in-depth interviews with Garland Independent School District Attorney Earl Luna. During that interview, we referred to not only Highland Park High School and the Highland Park Independent School District, which is 100% non-black, but we also talked about those school districts who are almost totally black, specifically in Harrison County in East Texas, where a judge has ordered the school district lines be dissolved and one consolidated school district formed for the purposes of desegregation. What about the implications of that ruling? Should it be upheld by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans? What about Wilmer-Hutchins School District in South Dallas County? It's rapidly approaching what the judge referred to in East Texas as 66% or more black. Could Wilmer-Hutchins become the burden of another school district within Dallas County, one that is maybe 100% non-black? We talked about the legal responsibility of one district to take on the financial burdens of another. Mr. Luna said he did not feel there was a legal responsibility, but the judges are making new decisions every day. So we had to bring up the moral question with Mr. Luna. Is it morally or legally our responsibility as members of a more affluent society to pick up the tab for the economically deprived school districts?
As we sit here today, we are not. But if the consolidation of districts should take place as required by that one district court, then we might well be legally responsible, if not morally.
All right, let's talk about Highland Park again, if we may, both morally and legally. Would Highland Park then have any responsibility, being healthy, being all white, having very little, if any, indebtedness, be responsible for any part of the burdens of any other school district, including the Dallas Independent School District?
If for some reason they were consolidated, then the debt would be spread as a part of the school district, and this conceivably could happen.
Quite frankly, in your opinion, Mr. Luna, what would it do to Highland Park to have to bus its students out and bus black students in?
What would it do to them? Well, it would, I'm sure, cause a great deal of public concern, as it has done in the black community in the case of the Dallas school districts. If the black community had to be bused to Highland Park, I'm sure the black community would complain very loudly. The black community does not like this busing, insofar as my experience has shown. And then I'm equally confident that the Highland Park people would not appreciate being bused to some other area in the Dallas school district.
Now, you're quite familiar with the desegregation hearings that have been going on. After all, you've been involved for over a year now with the Garland Independent School District. You know about Richardson, Highland Park, University Park, Dallas, Wilmer-Hutchins, all the rest. What is your opinion of that litigation now pending before federal judge William Mack Taylor? You are not under the orders of the court to not talk. So what is your appraisal?
Well, of course, I don't want to get into the discussion of in detail of a case that is in litigation, but Judge Taylor is a very wise and a very fair judge, and I think that we're going to see an outcome in that case that's going to be something that the school district and all of its inhabitants are going to be able to live with. I'd be surprised if it were otherwise.
Now, of course, the Dallas School District has put together, reportedly, a tentative plan which calls for closed-circuit television, redrawing of some boundary lines, but very little, if any, transportation. What's your appraisal of that plan as you understand it, and you really think it's acceptable to Judge Taylor?
Of course, I've not heard any of that case, and the only thing that I know is what I've read in the media about it, but it seems to me that the judge himself had suggested the use of television in connection with the school system. And so long as they come up with a plan, and I of course don't know the details of their plan, but so long as they come up with a plan so that all children are exposed to a biracial education at some point during their public school education, I think this would be in the area of meeting the requirement.
What would you personally think about rotating teachers throughout the Dallas Independent School District, say on an annual basis?
Teachers, of course, get roots like other people. It's kind of like asking somebody to rotate their home. Folks don't like to move every year, and people don't like to change the place of employment every year. It could work if enforced, but I think it would have to be an enforced sort of thing. Teachers would not prefer to do that. They put down their roots in the school where they're teaching, and I think they'd rather teach there.
What we've tried to prove over the past 2 days with these reports is simply this: that compliance with the federal law last year regarding desegregation does not necessarily mean compliance with the federal law next year. That every time a U.S. district judge interprets the law differently and it is upheld by an appeals court, that law changes just a little bit more. We've pointed out the case in East Texas, in Harrison County, where a U.S. district judge ordered predominantly black districts consolidated with predominantly white districts for the purposes of desegregation. We have pointed out that in Dallas County we have a school district that is rapidly becoming more than 66% black, the Wilmer-Hutchins. That on the other end of the county we have the completely non-black Highland Park Independent School District. Could the law change enough to force consolidation? Only time will tell, of course. The superintendent of schools, Mr. Frank Monroe, has said simply, "We will comply with the law," unquote. A Dallas Legal Services attorney has said people are talking to them about such a consolidation. This is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News, on the move.
We still have problems with skyjackings, and skyjackers get on the aircraft, which is one of the problems we have in defense of this.
How effective are the sky marshals?
Sky marshals are an interim measure. I think they deter some of the skyjackers from getting on the aircraft, but the best protection we have would be to screen the passengers more thoroughly to keep skyjackers from actually getting on the aircraft.
How effective are our screening procedures now then?
They have been effective, but we do need improvements.
What does a stewardess do when faced with a skyjacker in the air?
Keep as calm as possible and try to keep the skyjackers calm as possible.
How about with the sky marshal aboard?
Well, with the sky marshal aboard, that's up to the sky marshal.
Does that relieve you of all command of the situation then?
We have no command of a skyjacker at all.
Well, what can you do? What kind of action can you take?
The only action you can take is to try to keep any serious situation from developing. It depends on the situation. Notify the captain.
What should be done then to prevent skyjacking? Should that be taken out of the flight crew's hands?
No, it should not. To prevent skyjacking, we have to keep the skyjackers from actually getting on the aircraft. Extreme ground screening would be the best protection that we could have.
I don't think everybody's going to be happy. I think we had a large meeting last night, and there was mixed emotions about it. There were some people that provided some constructive criticism, and some people that were most of it was criticism because of the innovative type of program that it is. Some people were kind of skeptical about the program being effective, and this is what I relayed on to Dr. Estes, that there's going to have to be tremendous amount of flexibility if this is going to be the program.
agency. The courts
The skyjacking threat is still serious today.
Some of you will recall that in 1966 we had a St. Louis encephalitis here, at which time we issued to the public periodic press releases. There are some similarities to St. Louis encephalitis in that this is a vector transmitted virus disease, yet because there are other animals involved in this disease, we have many more agencies involved with us in coordinating the attack and the control. As yet, we have no indication that there is anything occurring here, yet many agencies have been working together for the past few days to formulate plans of action in case we have something.
The freestyle division will be like this: sights, about anything goes, except crossbows and stuff. Alright, you can get your yardage by, here's a shortest to the longest. And I'll put you right on if you hit it. The barebow division, you have to clear your sight window. And you shoot, you can walk the string, which on your face, which will put you point on any target you want to shoot at. If you're good enough, you'll hit. Like David Hughes, 3-time national champion. And then the bow hunter will you can't use none of this stuff here. And you have to shoot a 125 grain field point, which you got right there.
I'll ask Laverne, Wiz's wife, to help us describe the action.
Well, he's drawing back and anchoring, getting the right placement on his face, putting his sight dot on the dot and releases. WHISD is an awfully good shot. He shot 4 points off perfect on his hunter round at the Southern Archery Tournament that was held last weekend.
What's the difference between a woman's weight of her bow and, say, yours?
Well, I shoot a little heavier than most people shoot in men's because I've been shooting heavy bow. Average is around, women shoot around 25 to 34 pounds.
If Robin Hood walked into one of these meets, how would he do against the modern-day archer with their equipment?
Well, depending on who Robin Hood is, really, you know. If way he was so-called, you know, his tail, why, you'd still lose.
Never before in history has it been so true. Big computer is watching you. And that's exactly what it's doing at Fort Worth here in the Data Processing Center at City Hall. The Fort Worth Planning Division has come up with a booklet. It's called Computerized Population Forecast. And it tells me, among other interesting things, that in the year 2000, there are going to be exactly 1,626,104 people in Tarrant County. This, as a statistic, is virtually meaningless until I asked City Planning Director David Farrington why the study's being conducted.
Well, this study will indicate where the number of people are going to be located in Tarrant County, how many people, and how many of each age and sex groupings, so that the transportation planning can continue, so that we will know how many elderly people for housing conditions, how many children for school locations, and gross numbers for utility planning.
How long would it have taken you without the computers here in the Data Processing Center?
Well, it would have taken approximately 200 man-hours per calculation, which would have cost us nearly half a year's time.
This little orange book is report number 1 from the Planning Department. Chief Planner Khan Hussein tells me that within 2 to 3 weeks, report number 2 is going to roll off the computer printout. That will tell me not only how many people there are going to be in the county by the year 2000, but exactly where they're going to live. You know, it's a funny thing, sitting in a room surrounded by computers, it makes you wonder how we ever managed to get to the year 1971 without a computer to tell us how many people there were going to be this year. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
The Metro Squad says that they believe that Tex Roberts probably had an estate valued at $1.5 million. How close does that come to what you believe?
That's approximately correct.
How much of that have you been able to find, or what's the situation with it now?
We have in our bank account now about $125,000 in cash. It has been invested in savings account. We have found considerable amounts of stocks and bonds. We have some in our possessions, others that we know where they're located, and we will eventually obtain them. As to the exact market value of those stocks and bonds, I would say in excess of $100,000.
Well, let's talk about things that are missing. Do you know of funds that are supposed to be somewhere that aren't? Can you approximate how much money may have disappeared or how much stock may have just disappeared?
I understand there was $45,000 in cash in a safety deposit box, which we have been unable to locate. I understand there are considerable withdrawals in cash from the various bank accounts that we have been unable to locate as of this time.
Can you put a total dollar value or an approximate one on how much money is apparently missing?
I'm going to say at this time approximately $100,000.
Well, with this particular president, one always has one's finger crossed that great pronouncements will turn out to be more than PR. I hope that it's more than PR. I hope it represents a determination on his part to normalize relations with China, to get China in the United Nations, to get off the dead-end track of which he, for so many years, was one of the authors. It suggested that somehow it was immoral or counterproductive to freedom to deal with the Chinese government. I hope that we're through with all of that. But if it's, in fact, an effort to distract attention by flying to Peking from the fact that every day the war continues, this irrational war which has no excuse today, and every day from now on there will be men losing their legs and being killed and wiping out villages where people don't even know the name of this country.
Well, the national commander feels that the President is well informed of what is going on, and he's taking consideration of not forgetting our old friends, Nationalist China. And my personal feelings are that the President is well informed, and as long as we get our troops back and our prisoners back from overseas with honor, well, I see no reason why he can't go to China.